train to the Plastic Underground. Approaching the station, please stand away from the platform edge. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Plastic Underground. If you guys have been watching the Nerd Holes, Will and I have been covering Dragon Ball from like the very beginning, and we're going to keep talking about it all the way up until Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. So anyway, that'll be a long series, but I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've done like a bunch of like 3D prints and stuff. You guys have seen me do 3D prints. But I wanted to make something different. I wanted to make an actual prop, and watching Dragon Ball from the beginning got me reminded of the Dragon Ball radar that like Bulma invented. So that's what I made this week. I made the Dragon Ball radar. So this isn't the exact replica from Dragon Ball. It's more like Dragon Ball Z era because it's got the Capsule Corp logo on the back. And I also added lights and a battery so that when you push the top, you can see where the Dragon Balls are. And it was pretty fun. It's a pretty fun, like, quick build. Really, like, easy to paint because it's white and green and red. And even if you wanted to make this and not do the electrical, you could literally just paint the Dragon Balls like yellow or orange on the thing and have like there's like a cool like functioning like prop. You could put a string on here, like there's seen it with the string, and she wears it around her neck. But yeah, it was really fun, really quick build, and that is it. So let me show you guys how I made this, and blueprints will be on my Facebook page like always. It's just a couple circles, nothing too fancy. You could probably do it on your own, but so I'll show you how I made it, and thanks for watching. See you guys later.
Alright everybody, so here is how I made the Dragon Ball radar. So just using some 10mm foam here, and using the glue pot that I have to get the shape and the size of the circle. Yep. So just trace that out to some 10mm HD foam. I need 2 of these, and on some 5mm foam, this is going to be the actual screen. I'm just using a roll of duct tape, and then on some 2mm foam, this is going to be the front detail piece. So it's the same size as the base, but then this screen fits inside of it. So I use my roll of tape again just to make sure everything's kind of like even on all sides, and then I trace that onto so that I have this little detail piece here. So I cut the middle out, and I save that piece for the back plate, and then this piece gets cut out too, and that's the actual piece you need. Cut out the 5mm piece, the screen, and then you can see how that screen fits right inside that little detail. Then I go ahead and separate these two from each other. Make sure the foam is flat before you cut it. And this is my like real-time technique for cutting out circles. I know circles can kind of be a pain, so I try to just kind of keep my knife straight and pull the knife a little bit, but also I am turning with my left hand, actually turning the piece of foam so that it is curving too. And I found that works pretty good. I'm giving you a pretty good circle. And then everything's going to be sanded and cleaned up with the Dremel anyway. But that gives you a pretty good place to start. And there's the whole thing kind of together. I'm checking, making sure it fits good in the hand. This is a little battery pack I had laying around from like some L wire that I don't use. And I have a few of these. So what I wanted to see what the actual switch looked like. So I popped that out, and I'm not worried about the board, but the switch here is a monetary switch. So I pull that out. Now some 5mm and some 10mm glued together. This is going to make the spot where the trigger of the switch goes into. So I just drew the circle shape so that it's curved to that, and then I can draw this the same size as that switch, a little bigger, so that the switch will sit inside of there. Then I just go ahead and cut that out. And then you can kind of cut that curve out too. And again, that gets cleaned up with the Dremel anyway. So that cut doesn't have to be like perfect. But this is a little part that goes on top of the radar, and it's going to sit curved on the very top. I'll show you that. That's where it's going to go. So now for the wires, on this inside circle here, I just kind of cut a little bit of a groove so that those wires can sit flush. And then I grind down that top part I was just talking about, just to kind of round it and shape it pretty good. Then I go ahead and I cut that middle out of that piece there. This is so that the switch can sit inside of that piece, like flush. And I got lucky that this switch here has like that long stem, and that ends up like working out for the actual like stem part. And so that was kind of cool. Then I just cut a hole all the way through the back. And this is the wire that I will be using. I don't remember what this wire came off of something, but I can't remember. I just have like bins of like scrap wire and stuff. So I fished that through the back, and the top part here is going to sit in that channel. It's gonna run up to the switch. So I just kind of glue that in place, and I even use like a scrap piece of 2mm foam to glue that in place there. Then I can go ahead and glue the top circle to that bottom circle. Then I go ahead and I just focus on this seam. Make sure that the seam is sanded and flush first before I start working my way to the edges. So now this little piece gets brought through the wire, and then a little bit of glue. And then now that is attached. So then I go ahead and I put my switch here and I can get that soldered up. So just like regular switch, you're just soldering, both posts so the power goes to one side, and when the switch is activated, the power goes out of the other side. So here is some Christmas lights that I have laying around. I have like one of those little battery pack Christmas lights. The battery pack got all like rusted and corroded, but all the LEDs still work fine. I have a whole bin of them, and I've been using them in a lot of projects lately. So the screen there you saw, I just kind of rounded out the edges just to make it more of a dome, like a dome shape. And then I mark on here the grid pattern, and just going through and drawing that first with a pen, both up and diagonal lines. And then these I go ahead and I cut these with my X-Acto knife here, just to get these details on here. And then of course I use the heat gun, and those seams all open up, and that looks pretty good. Then I go ahead and glue the screen on. Now with a little bit of scrap 2mm foam, I cut out this little triangle. This is like the indicator. This is where you are. And then I'm using this little bit here, and I am going to drill through the entire thing of where I would like the lights to be. So I kind of struggled with this decision. I wanted to put, kind of space them out, but it's like, I don't know, like I feel like there wouldn't be any like behind you. Seems like you would have already gotten those ones. So I kind of added one in front and then a couple to the side. So now I can go ahead and solder those LEDs, and then I just kind of push those through and just leave them right there like on the surface. And then this little detail piece gets brought through. So this little trim piece gets glued on the outside, and it'll get trimmed and sanded to match the rest. And it also gets beveled. The front and the back get beveled so that it's more of a rounded instead of just like this sharp edge. The switch gets glued into place. Very like gingerly too. Try not to get glue on the actual switch. Here's a little trick too. This is some PVC pipe that I've sanded. And then if you put this on some foam and twist it, it will actually like cut through the foam as a little circle cutter. So that's just some 10mm foam. That's going to be like the top like button part thing. So I'm cutting this little circle out of the bottom that I can glue that in place like that. But I sand the edges first and kind of bevel the top of that. And I go through and I sand the edges again, and then I start to sand round over all of the edges too on the front and the back. They'll get kind of this round bevel. So then that top piece I go through and I just kind of start slicing these lines, vertical lines, just to give it a little bit of detail, give it some like texture, like a grip knob, and open that up. So I didn't really show a lot of the like electrical wiring. I literally just wired it to like a D-cell like battery like puck and the LEDs to that. It's really pretty basic. But I decided to glue this little piece on the back just to kind of like seal that stuff into place. And if I ever need to get into there and change the battery, I can just rip this piece off, or I could probably even just cut it and glue it back on. But I don't know. I don't foresee the battery dying in this. It's a new battery, and it's not like the power's on all the time. So I used some Plasti Dip just to seal the whole thing up. I put about 4 coats of Plasti Dip on this. And like I said, this paint job is really, really simple. It's literally some Plasti Dip, and then I use this Ultra Matte White. And that is like, and that is it, except for some green and a little bit of red. So yeah, I've been using this white paint for a lot of stuff, and yeah, it works pretty good. So I put like 2 coats of this white paint on here, making sure that like everything's coated. And then I didn't put anything on these lights, but you can see the Plasti Dip and paint peel right off of those LEDs. And this is the green I'm using, so I'm just mixing it up and just brush it on. I ended up putting like four coats of this on just to make it like smooth, make sure everything was like uniform and looked pretty good. I thought about doing like a light green middle, like gradient, but I decided just to make it green, like the solid green, and yeah, I was pretty happy with it. It looked pretty good. Then I can paint that little triangle red. I probably could have painted this triangle right on like the flat part of the radar so it's not raised, but I don't know. I kind of like it raised. So here's this Capsule Corp logo. This I actually cut out a long time ago on my vinyl cutter. I was going to put this on my car, but I never did. And so the way it worked out was kind of funny that this is like the exact size to fit on this back like plate. So like that worked out very well too, and it was pretty cool. I love when that happens. I love when something like works out like that. So there's just a little bit of like black matte vinyl that I used to cut out on my vinyl cutter. And yeah, it's cool. I've always loved this logo, the Capsule Corp logo, and I wanted to make sure like this was on the back. So there you go. That is how I made the Dragon Ball radar. I hope you guys liked it. Share it with some Dragon Ball fans, and let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see me make. I have a lot of other projects in the works, just trying to edit videos and finish them. I have a lot of like projects just in stages, so it's kind of how my brain works. But anyway, like the video, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time I make something cool.